How you doing, Miss Reed?
Hey, how you doing?
When I say putting kids first, what comes to mind?
Kids have to come first, regardless. So when you look at the grand scheme of things about putting kids first, you have to be able to address all of their needs. It's not just education. When I first started teaching, my classroom had 16 kids, and I was told that was a big class. The biggest class I ended up having was 32. It is impossible with 32 kids to be able to give those kids everything they need and actually be able to put them first. So unfortunately, you're going to have some kids who are going to be missing something. As a teacher, for me, making sure my kids come to school and they're healthy, they're safe, everything that they need, their basic needs are met. If I can't help them meet their basic needs, which should be done at home, there's no way I can teach it all. So putting kids first means I've bought school supplies, I have bought clothes, washed clothes, I have done hair. I've done all of those things because that impacts how a kid feels about themselves, their self-esteem, their self-confidence. If they don't have that, how am I supposed to be able to get them to where they even care about math, let alone want to put their time and energy to that? Because a lot of times, kids, when they come to school, they might need to sleep because who knows what's going on at home. So if I can't address those basic needs first, whatever it is I wanted to teach that day, it's irrelevant because their needs come first. It's their emotional needs, the mental health aspect. Sometimes they need to eat. So when you come to school, you know you're going to get 2 meals a day, for sure. I don't know what they're going to get at home. I've had snacks, I've let kids sleep, and then it's like, okay, this is what you're going to do. Take your nap, do what you need to do to get you right, so then we can do what it is I need to do. So putting kids first, that's it. Before anything else can be done, before I can even think about teaching whatever was on that lesson plan, I need them there, ready to go, and feeling like they are somebody. They get told so much at home, and this isn't all of them, don't get me wrong, but the kids that I see struggle, they have no self-confidence. A lot of times they're told that they're not smart enough. Girls are constantly told, oh, well, if you dress this way, then it'll be okay. Those things take away their confidence, and they need that. I always told my students, I believe in them. You're going to be able to grow up and do anything you want to do. And it's amazing the difference that you see. I've had a student who I made sure, and this was recently, this was like this past year, he didn't care about coming to school at all. He didn't want to be there. When he was there, he would skip class. He would sleep. And eventually, I was able to chip away at his exterior and got him to where he would come to school. Then we started working on, okay, well, what's going on that you're not wanting to put forth your effort in your classwork? Talked about that. We got through it step by step. This boy who didn't have any care about school was ready. He's like, I'm going to graduate. I can do this. He's going to go to college. And he told me it was because of things that I helped to instill in him. So I'm telling them every day, you can do this. I'm proud of you. I'm happy you're here. And that really makes a difference with them. But if you're not willing to put the kids first, even before that education aspect, you're not going to be successful with them at all. And it will impact them. If they don't feel that they are important when they're there, then you're not going to get the best. If you let them know you care. And I tell all my kids, and I do refer to my students as my kids. Once you've been in my class or I've worked with you, I'm going to follow up with you forever. I get calls, emails, I get text messages of kids who still reach out to, well, they're not kids anymore. They're young adults now. They have kids of their own who reach out to me to tell me, hey, this is what's going on. You made an impact in my life. Or they'll even call and ask me for advice about what school do I think that they might be interested in. And these are kids from years and years ago. So that lets me know that I am doing my best to put my kids first.
Why are educators leaving the occupation?
The sad fact that makes most educators leave the profession is money. And it's sad to say that, but I knew whenever I became a teacher that I wasn't going to make $100,000 a year. I knew that. But whenever you have teachers who have been working for years and years with no raises, and I had that in a major district here in our St. Louis area, I worked for 8 years without a raise. And that meant then that people who were just now graduating, coming into the field of education 10, 15 years after me, are now almost making the same amount of money I make with all of my years of experience. It's really disheartening to those people who are truly career educators. So money does make a lot of people leave because they also need to be able to support their families as well. So money is a big part. Then the lack of support from your school, your individual school, your school districts, those people who are in those roles in your school, who are supposed to be your principals, your assistant principals. You have counselors who are there. However, most schools don't even have a full-time counselor on staff anymore, which is sad because that makes it harder for teachers to be able to meet kids' needs as well, because there might be something going on and I don't have that resource right there to be able to help that student. So then teachers become frustrated because of lack of support. You will have administrators literally tell you to teach to these state tests. So whenever you have a student who is in middle school now and they're getting ready to be tested over social studies and you're told as an elementary teacher, don't focus on that, it puts our kids behind. So teachers are upset about that we actually don't get to teach anymore. So when I look at it, have I considered leaving teaching? I actually did. And it is the only thing I ever wanted to do was to teach. But the system and the lack of support for students, for teachers, it made me no longer love what I did. And luckily, I was able to have an experience to work with someone who was absolutely amazing. And the support that I got from her for my kids, even for myself, was amazing. So I had that experience, and that same person gave me another opportunity to advance my career. But it makes me sad that because of things that were out of my control, I actually considered leaving what I love.
How do you feel about radioactive waste being found in St. Louis, Missouri schools?
Before I even look at the fact of the schools, we just need to look at the fact of there's radioactive waste in multiple areas where not only are there schools, but there are people who are living there, who have lived there their entire lives, and what they could be exposed to. So radioactive waste is a huge issue here in St. Louis as a whole, which I think has been, well, in my opinion, has been ignored due to where that is being found at. So right now, there's this huge issue with a school in the Hazelwood district that was found to have toxic levels of radioactive waste. And that is a horrible thing. You know, kids shouldn't be there. They shouldn't be exposed to it. But we also have to look at that area around there. It's not just the school that has that exposure, but all the other businesses, people who are living there. So that is a big issue. But personally, I find fault with the fact that there is a school in the city of St. Louis that has been sitting on toxic waste for years, even an area where We had issues with toxic waste before the schools were even built. That's why what was there in that area, those housing complexes, were torn down. So now we have a school that's in the inner city that still has toxic waste. You have lead that was found in the water at the school. And this is a school I taught at for years. And when I look back on it, I find that I was sick all the time. I would get very sick and be sick for a week or two at a time the entire time I taught at that school. But when I left that particular school and took another position in the district, suddenly my health issues, they kind of went away. Didn't have those anymore. But in that area, the kids are being consistently exposed. They're running around. They're playing on those playgrounds. There's particular buildings that they started to build in that area right next to the school. They stopped because of the amount of waste that was found there. So I don't understand why it is unsafe for the kids in another school in another district to be able to be in that building. But there's a school in the inner city where kids are there every day. There's multiple kids. And that school even has a school where it is for kids that are considered medically fragile. They have lots of things going on, different health issues. So now we have these kids who already have these medical issues who are continuously being exposed to that, but nothing's being said or done. And whenever I look back at it, the main difference I see is the location of the schools and what happened to putting kids first.
Name inappropriate items kids have brought to school.
Inappropriate items. When I think of inappropriate items, I would always tell the students that things had to be, anything that was at school needed to be school appropriate. So when I have kids, and I would even consider that video games. We don't bring that stuff to school. We don't do any of that. That, to me, that is something that is inappropriate for school. Whenever you have students who come and they bring thousands of dollars that they have found in the house and start handing out $100 bills. And a lot of times they do that because they are looking for acceptance. They want to do that, and they'll do it at any cost. And sometimes it's money. We've had drugs brought into the school. There was one time that in an inner city school in St. Louis where there was a gun brought to school, and they didn't even make us aware of it in the building. So a lot of things come into play with that. You know, we've had kids who will bring a water bottle, and now you have to check a water bottle and make sure that it's actually water in there. They will bring alcohol, they bring drugs, money, anything that you can imagine and then some, they will bring to school. I've had, at the school I was at, student knew they were going to go through a metal detector. They took their coat, they cut a little slit in it, they slid a steak knife in there, and even stitched it back up. So that way, when they went through the metal detector, everybody would think it's just a button or a zipper, but it wasn't. And after going through that metal detector again, had a child take the coat off and found a knife in there. So inappropriate things, they will come to you in any way. They'll come to you in any method. You even have girls who will hide different things and they put them in tampon wrappers, all that to try to be able to get those things passed. And that is a huge issue in schools because it takes safety factors into risk for the kids, for the staff. And staff, they're not equipped to handle that.
How are kids mistreated by the school district in the St. Louis district?
So kids will be mistreated in the schools in many different ways. Sometimes it is not having enough materials to go around where you have 24 students in class and you only have 20 desks. To me, that's being mistreated because everybody should have the same things for each student. So it shouldn't be one classroom has everything, another one doesn't. And that is a big issue now, is making sure, especially with everything going and we have electronic learning, we still don't have enough Chromebooks or iPads or whatever it is that those schools are using for every student. And then one of the issues that I feel strongest about is special education. That is something I love, I adore it, and I've spent majority of my years teaching, dealing with special education. The schools, when you look at the principals, and this isn't all schools, but for the majority of schools, principals are not even aware of what comes in with that process, what the rights of the students are, what the rights of the parents are. And one of the biggest injustice that I see, or ways that the students are mistreated, is when it comes to our special education students. They will end up getting disciplined for something that they have no control over, that would be their diagnosis and why they are there and why they're in special education to begin with. So one of the biggest areas where our students are mistreated is in that area. And a lot of it is lack of knowledge base for the people there in the school, but then you also have to have the willingness to learn and to figure out what it is you don't know, so that way you can make sure that those students are all treated properly.
And why do you continue to work with children?
I love kids. I love teaching. I love everything about it. And why I continue to teach? I have to think about the reason why I wanted to be a teacher in the first place and what I want to see these kids be able to do. The biggest thing I want for them is to see them become successful. When I see these students who didn't even want to come to school, and now they are looking forward to it. They're excited that they see a future that they didn't think that they might have before. Whenever I see a student who comes to me and wants to know, hey, can we talk right now? And being able to sit with them and talk to them and be able to figure out what they want in their future, it makes all the other things that you struggle with as a teacher worthwhile when you see that student smiling, beaming, feeling proud of themselves because they're able to do something that they just automatically assume that they wouldn't be able to do. Or you have a student who graduates college and they send you pictures, or you get invitations to high school graduations. When I see the pride in them, that lets me know why I continue to do what I do. This is the only thing I ever want to do. It is the only thing I see myself doing, and I love it. I love my students. I love my kids, and seeing that in them makes it all worthwhile, to where this is it. This is who I am. I am Miss Reed.